What's up, nerds, and welcome to the Nerd History Podcast, a proud part of the Love Thy Nerd Podcast Network, and your home for celebrating the nostalgia that has shaped nerd culture. I'm Radio Matt. I'm the Director of Content and Resources for Love Thy Nerd, and with me today and forevermore is my beautiful bride, Deidra.
Hi, I'm Deidra.
We are the Nerd Historians, and today on the show we are taking a look at the history of the original Nicktoons, which celebrate their 32nd anniversary a few days from now on August 11th.
Okay.
32 years.
Wow.
32 years. This is also our Season 2 premiere episode. Whoa! I thought you were going to do that with me.
Well, welcome back.
Can you believe? Can you believe we're back for a second season, Deidra?
I cannot.
Yeah. I haven't kicked you out yet. Before we get to anything, let's talk about what's been going on this summer.
Okay.
You're in college again.
Oh. Why do we got to talk about that?
It sucks. Sucks for everybody involved.
Officially made it through my first class.
Yeah. They go in
Gen 101.
They go 5 weeks at a time. And it's weird.
Yeah.
They're all online.
Uh-huh.
Late at night.
Yep.
And
kids go to bed and I get to doing homework.
And we're all more
great.
tired because of it.
Yeah.
I had a fun day today.
Are you going to talk about it?
Yeah.
You're going to tell everyone
I am.
the embarrassment. Okay.
So I had to take, for the last couple of years, I've had to take my mom to a lot of doctor's appointments outside of town. And the rarest one we have to go to is in a town that's about two hours away from us. And we live in this weird triangle with another town where it's like 2 hours from our town to this town, 2 hours from this town to the third town, 2 hours from the third town to our town again. So it's like a triangle, about 2 hours every way. In between all of these places is nothing. Barren wilderness, farmland that is as far as the eye can see, and a couple dead towns on the way that all look identical. My mother and I drove to her doctor's appointment, and as we're coming back and leaving the town that we had to go to, you reach like a spot where you're supposed to either turn off to go back to our town or keep going straight to go to the third town. And we were talking about, I thought we were talking about politics, but actually we were talking about Love Thy Nerd at this point. My mother was asking me just what Love Thy Nerd was and how it worked. And though I've explained that a few times to her already, we were doing that again. And I was really into it and just zipped right on past that turn. And unfortunately, because the road is still barren nothingness, didn't realize it. Didn't realize it till we got to that third town. We're like, that's not on the way to our town. Pulled up the map. Yeah, we just drove 2 hours in the wrong direction. Now we have to drive another 2 hours. I cannot believe that it took 2 hours to think something's wrong here.
Right.
We passed like 12 different little things. They were like, I don't remember that being on this road. Oh, well.
Just didn't notice it before. That's all.
That has been the most painful trip ever. Just because I knew, I have so much work to do today, including preparing for this podcast. And now I'm going to have barely any time to do it because I've just lost 2.5 extra hours because we had to stop now and use the bathroom and get another snack to get us home and all this fun stuff. So I'm a little tired, and I'm going to try not to let that affect the show. But we're going to have some fun.
I agree.
You want to know why?
Why?
So we're going to start with a game.
Oh, yay.
I'm going to test you.
Why?
So we're talking about Nicktoons, right?
Uh-huh.
Don't worry, it's not that hard. Back in the mid-90s, early 2000s, it was Nicktoons versus cartoons from Cartoon Network. So I have a list here.
Oh, gosh.
And I'm going to give you a title of a show, and I want you to tell me if it was a
gonna be
Nickelodeon show or a Cartoon Network show.
This is going to be bad.
There's 21. You need to get 11. You need to beat 50%. Could you do that?
No.
I got my counter. I got my little analog counter right here.
Super exciting.
Are you ready?
Uh-huh.
All right, I'm going to start you off real easy. Hey Arnold. Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network?
Nickelodeon.
Good job. Real monsters.
Never even heard of that. Nickelodeon?
Good job.
The only reason... So I only got to watch Cartoon Network.
Right.
Because we lived in Germany.
Right.
For 4 years of my childhood.
Right.
So if I
But
don't
these are
recognize it, I'm going with Nickelodeon.
But these are only going to cover that era when you were watching for a little bit. Before we get to stuff you probably never saw or heard of. Dexter's Laboratory.
Cartoon Network.
Good job. Cow and Chicken.
Cartoon Network.
Good job.
I watched it. See? It was right. It was like a little short at the end of Dexter, right? For a little bit.
Maybe. There was a lot of that going on in the Cartoon Network shows. They had a lot of like mini shorts in between like the two episodes of the main show that would eventually get spin-offs in there, but it was its own show.
I'm pretty sure they did that.
Kablam!
Nickelodeon?
Good job. You're at 5 already. Okay. So you're doing great.
All right.
You got them all so far.
Wow.
The Powerpuff Girls.
Cartoon Network.
Good job. The Angry Beavers.
Nickelodeon?
Good job.
Woo!
Cat Dog.
Nickelodeon.
Good job. The Wild Thornberries.
Never heard of that.
Yeah, I think we're in that era now.
Nickelodeon? Okay.
You're at 9 already. You're breezing
all
through
right.
this. Okay.
I just gotta get 2 more right.
You do. Ed, Ed, and Eddie.
Oh my gosh. Like, I recognize that one, but is it because you made me watch it? Because you made me watch a lot of Nickelodeon.
I did.
Or is it because I saw it on Cartoon Network? I'm going to say Nickelodeon.
Wrong.
Oh,
that
man.
is a Cartoon Network show.
Dang it.
All right, take 1 point away. No, I'm kidding.
No.
Rocket Power.
Never heard of that. I'm going to say Nickelodeon.
Correct. Invader Zim.
Never heard of that. What? Are you making stuff up? Cartoon Network?
No, that's Nickelodeon. Courage the Cowardly Dog.
I do recognize that. I'm going to say Cartoon Network.
That's 11.
Yay!
Good job. Let's go through the rest and see if you can get even higher than that. Let's see if you can get to 15. All right.
No, don't make a new roll.
New roll. Here we go.
She won. Good
Yay,
job.
she won round 1. Now we're into round 2. Action League Now.
Never heard of that one. Nickelodeon?
Correct. My Life as a Teenage Robot.
Nickelodeon?
Correct.
Okay.
Grim and Evil.
Cartoon Network.
Correct.
Oh!
Danny Phantom.
What?
Danny Phantom.
Danny Phantom? Nickelodeon?
That's 15. All right. Let's see if you can run the last 4. Here we go.
It's not going to happen.
Avatar, The Last Airbender.
Never heard of that either. Nickelodeon?
Good job. Whatever Happened to Robot Jones?
Cartoon Network?
Good job. Codename Kids Next Door.
Like, that's the full name of it?
Yep.
Nickelodeon.
Oh, man. Let's see if we can get this last one. Back in the Barnyard.
Cartoon Network.
No, Nickelodeon. You got 17 out of 21.
Okay, all right.
That's crushing it, in my
Go to
opinion.
Vegas, because I'm beating those odds.
You're beating the odds here. We're beating him with a bat. Nickelodeon first launched its animated block of shows called Nicktoons on August 11th, 1991.
Wow.
How old were you in 91?
4.
4. I was 6. Yeah.
Yeah.
The 3 shows that debuted on this block, which we'll be talking about today, are Doug, Rugrats, and the Ren and Stimpy show.
All right.
This marked a new era in animated programming because Nickelodeon, up to this point, was primarily like an acquired programming network. It would buy shows from other companies. It didn't produce its own stuff yet. Like it was starting to get into it with game shows like Double Dare, a couple other shows like that. But this was the first like story-driven kind of stuff, or among the first story-driven kind of stuff that they were producing. They were trying to compete with normal Saturday morning cartoons. They were able to skirt the rules that those other networks had to follow, because for Saturday morning cartoons on ABC, Fox Kids, whatever else, they had the education and information rules, the EI. I don't know if you remember that logo would pop up in the corner of these shows, EI, that required them to be educational in nature for a while. Like it had to have some
we've
sort.
talked about that before.
Had to have some sort of educational value. It couldn't just be mindless violence or humor. Nickelodeon did not have to deal with that, and so a lot of their stuff is mine because they were not a network. They were not like a public cable network. They were their own private network. So creator driven. They were looking for their own animators, their own storytellers that were entertaining, relatable, enduring. And each of these shows were actually very, very different. So let's start with Doug. Doug was created by Jim Jenkins and quickly established itself as a staple of 90s children's programming. Followed the life of Douglas Doug Funny, an 11-year-old boy with a vivid imagination as he navigates the challenges of adolescence in a fictional town called Bluffington. So he had a best friend who was blue, Skeeter Valentine. He had a love interest who was a curly-haired blonde named Patty Mayonnaise. Patty Mayonnaise. And his pet dog, do you remember the pet dog's name?
We even just said it last week, I feel like.
Do you remember?
Nope.
Pork chop.
Pork chop.
I feel like of all 3 of these shows, this was the most wholesome. It was very unoffensive and imaginative. It was also very quirky. Even just the intro music. It was like a boppy scat kind of thing. They were putting together. No, 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 no. There was no instruments. It was all a cappella instrument noises, and it was fantastic. Fantastic. Actually, there were instruments eventually. Now that I'm recalling, there was like a guitar that would come in at one point when Roger Klotz was being introduced.
Oh.
Yeah, I remember that. Unless they did that with the voices too. I don't know. I don't remember now. But a lot of it was voices, at least. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
This was heavily influenced with imagination, like his actual imagination. It was similar in tone to Scrubs, where like every other scene or whatever, he's imagining something happening, and poof, we're there doing this now.
That's what Arthur does.
Arthur as well. Yeah. There's a lot of shows that use that gimmick, and it's a pretty popular gimmick, I guess. But he would imagine himself as a rock star. I remember that one specifically. He was being interviewed by a magazine or something, and he's like, the question is, how do you come up with your songs? He's like, well, he has the accent. I'll just see things, and then I'll just write a song about it. Like, I could pick up this plunger, and I'll be like, plunger, 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 something like that. Think Big, that came out. Big, Think big, 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 big. It was crazy. A lot of good music. It garnered a pretty good fan base. They had 52 episodes on Nickelodeon before Disney sniped them, took them, stole them, made it a part of their ABC block, moved them up to high school, I believe it was. It was either moved them up to high school or middle school, or they graduated. They were all older. They all were redesigned slightly. Roger Klotz's parents won the lottery, and now he was just as rich as the BB's family that like owned half the town. The Bluffingtons. It was BB Bluffington. That's right. Like, it was weird. People didn't really like it as much, but it lasted just as long. 2 more seasons as the original. I remember.
I think I ever saw that one.
Yeah, I remember being very disappointed. I'm like, why'd Nickelodeon let it get away?
Yeah.
It's on Disney Plus. I'm almost certain. I don't know if it's all of it or if it's just the last 2 seasons, their seasons. I don't know if they bought the whole rights to it,
right,
or not. I feel like that's generally how that is now. Like, Community had like 5 different networks it was on, but you can still watch it all at whatever on Peacock now. So who knows? Anywho,
I'll have to check it out.
they also had Doug's first movie in 1999,
Yes.
which explored Doug's quest to save a mysterious monster and was met with moderate success at the box office. I don't know. At that point, I'm like, I don't want to see a Doug movie. 8 years later.
Yeah, that's a long time later.
Yeah. Let's see. So Bluffington was inspired by Jim Jenkins' hometown of Richmond, Virginia. Doug's signature outfit, which I love and have replicated in the past, is the khaki pants, usually khaki shorts, white t-shirt with green sweater vest, rather, over. Mm-hmm. It's a wonderful look. I love it. I have replicated it. That was designed to give him this timeless everyman appeal.
Okay.
So it could be, you could watch this in any era.
Any error.
And you'd believe it's now. He was wrong.
Technology and stuff.
Right, yeah. Way wrong. But, let's see. On Disney, it was renamed to brand spanking new Doug.
Oh.
It couldn't just be Doug, which was weird. Which is why it might be might be considered a different show just because it was renamed. The voice cast played a significant role bringing these characters to life. Doug Funny and Roger Klotz were both voiced by Billy West, one of the royalty of voice actors, responsible for Fry on Futurama, several Nicktoons, which this is not the last time we will hear his name today.
Okay.
It's a classic. Look him up and just look at all the voices that he does, and you'll find out that you love his voice. You love it so much. But that was only during the Nickelodeon run, though. After it went to Disney, a new person started voicing Doug, and I don't think I noticed that.
Really?
Which is impressive.
Yeah.
Constance Schulman provided the voice of Patty Mayonnaise. Fred Newman voiced Skeeter, which Skeeter was fun. Like I said, he had blue skin. Mm-hmm. He had a orange and yellow, weird, almost tracksuit, half basketball uniform, half, I don't know what. Kind of looked like a superhero. Had a lightning bolt in here. But he was fun. He was a wacko. Voiced by Fred Newman. Fred Newman also contributed to the show's distinctive sound effects and musical score.
Cool.
Doug's journal, where he documents his thoughts and experiences, that was the driving feature, really, of every story. Mm-hmm. Is dear journal. Mm-hmm. And it's a journal, not a diary. And he got really upset if you called it a diary. It's a journal. There's a whole episode about it. Doug's journal was inspired by Jenkins' own habit of journaling. The character of Quail Man, Doug's superhero alter ego, was created to reflect Doug's desire to be brave and heroic in the face of his insecurities. Let's see here. Patty Mayonnaise's name was inspired by a girl Jenkins had a crush on in high school.
Wow.
But I don't know if that was her name, too.
Right. I hope it wasn't.
Anyway, you watched a little bit of Doug.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. I saw all of the Nickelodeon run.
I think I watched it with you on Nickelodeon, if it was on when we were dating, honestly.
It wasn't. But it might have been on later, like in the reruns. I don't think it was a part of that, the 90s or all that thing. Rugrats was. Okay. Hey Arnold was. But I don't think that was. But we've seen bits and pieces of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say, like, yeah, most of my memories of it are, like, with you, watching it with you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because, again, I didn't have Nickelodeon.
Or a life. What about Rugrats? Did you watch more Rugrats?
Again, more with
Just with me, really? Okay, so we watched it. I know the 90s or all that came on about a decade or so ago.
Yeah. And
they did a lot of Rugrats, and that was fun.
Yeah.
Rugrats, created by Arlene Klasky and Gabor Tsupo, got really hard to say the name, and Paul Germain. The show became the cornerstone of Nicktoons. Mm-hmm. It was one of the longest lasting, and it centers around a group of toddlers. Tommy Pickles, who is the leader but also the youngest. Mm-hmm. Chucky Finster, who was 2. He was the oldest. But also the scarediest. Twins Phil and Lil DeVille and Angelica Pickles. Technically the oldest, but I meant of the good kids. Right. Angelica was a bad kid. Bad girl.
Evil.
She was evil. Or she was a 3-year-old.
Right.
Having a 3-year-old girl. You know,
now you're like, well,
maybe,
that's just normal behavior.
Maybe that's just how they are. Maybe. They embark on imaginative adventures that often revolve around everyday situations. The show's success attributed to the unique ability to capture the world from the child's perspective, making it relatable for both kids and adults. The first episode I remember, and I don't know if it is the first episode, but I know it's early on. Uh-huh. I think it might be the first episode. Taught you to do something very terrible for your baby. And that was give your practically newborn baby chocolate milk in a bottle. Huh. Just full of sugar. It was the Super Bowl where the Houston Oilers were playing the Dallas Cowboys. Uh-huh. And all the Pickles men were there watching the game, and they're supposed to also be watching the babies. Uh-huh. And I think it was Grandpa made bottles for all the babies, but made Tommy a special chocolate milk one. And it became a battle for who gets the chocolate milk one. The chocolate milk one, of course, representing a football. And so while the big game is playing, they're reenacting a football game, trying to get the chocolate milk bottle. It was hilarious, but terrible parenting.
Don't do that.
Terrible, terrible parenting. It went on for a really, really long time, to the point where they had to Poochie the show.
What the heck is that?
So in The Simpsons, for an episode of Itchy and Scratchy, they bring in a third character to keep the show alive. And that's Poochie the dog.
Oh, okay.
And that's lampooning the practice that shows really did of when viewers start drifting away, bring in a new character to pump some more life into the show.
Let's go.
And so they Poochied the show with Dill Pickles. Mm-hmm. Dylan Pickles. Which, to be fair, kind of worked. A lot of people liked Dill.
Well, no, Tommy gets like a mom, and don't they have a kid too or something?
Huh?
Not Tommy.
Oh.
Chucky.
Yes. That also came in. Kimmy was the new addition to that.
Was that like part of the movie?
I think so. I think that was part of the movie. I don't remember exactly where Kimmy came in. Yeah. But I know part of the movie was at least them getting married, Chucky's dad and stepmom. But
And there's like also another kid.
Is that the one in Paris? Is
that-
that Rugrats in Paris? I don't remember now.
Maybe.
Why else would they go to Paris? But Rugrats did a lot of cool things. They had even some religious-inspired episodes. Overtly religious. I believe one was very Christian-inspired and one was very Torah-inspired. They did the Passover and told the whole story of the Maccabees and all that and the oil and everything. I guess the other one was Moses.
Okay.
And it was Angelica playing Pharaoh. And when it got to the newborn baby will die, I don't know how they portrayed that. It wasn't die, I don't think. But it was something bad. Maybe they did say die. I don't quite remember. But I know that Angelica, as Pharaoh, picked up the phone and called her dad, which her dad was her actual dad in the real world. So... Was I your firstborn child? Like, of course, sweetie, you're our one and only princess. Okay. But they did. I mean, it was really good. The adult characters were fun. This was the way they portrayed the adults was very Bluey-esque back then. Like there was a lot of reality to the way the parents were. The dad was a inventor who tried to keep making all these cool toys and kept failing at it. Nothing he made ever worked. There was a lot of creepy scenes of him making very creepy dolls and toys and things.
Yeah, I do remember it was like creepy enough. Like
the art style.
I watched the Rugrats movie with maybe Eli and Johnny, and I started playing it, and I was like, "Oh, this is dark." And like they were not interested. They were freaked out. It was like it's a dream that it starts out with, like a raptor. Was that
Reptar?
Reptar. There we go.
Reptar. Reptar hungry.
Yeah. Anyway.
They always wanted Reptar bars. Remember Reptar bars?
Oh, okay.
They even made those in real life for a little while. They're basically pies, but with green custard filling.
Okay.
Yeah. They were candy bars in the show, but they were like pies in the real world.
I don't remember.
Reptar cereal. Reptar was the big thing. Tommy loves Reptar. My favorite episode of The Simpsons ever happened around a mini golf course. It was Stu and Lou, the dad and the uncle.
You said Simpsons, but you meant Rugrats.
Did I say Simpsons? I'm sorry, Rugrats.
Yeah, okay.
Rugrats.
Just to make sure.
Revolved around a mini golf course. Because it was the coolest mini golf course ever. It was based around like a sundae at the end, like this giant sundae. All the kids thought that they were going on this quest to find this big sundae, this big ice cream to eat it. And so like it's the Sundae Mountain is the 18th hole. And so they're going through all of these treacherous other holes with all the themes and whatever to get to that. Only to find out it was a hollow, thing. But it was just so well done, and being a mini golf lover, as you and I are, us two are, it was just such a fun episode to watch.
Yeah.
And made me really want to play mini golf at a place like that. And then, of course, at the end, they go inside and celebrate and have this giant ice cream thing that they're all eating, and it's really cool. But just a really, really fun show all around. But then again, it also went on forever, and I didn't watch the later seasons because I had grown up.
Right.
It went on for a long time.
It did.
It spawned 3 feature films: the Rugrats movie, Rugrats in Paris, the movie, and Rugrats Go Wild, which was a crossover with the Wild Thornberrys. I saw that. It was weird.
I don't remember that one.
The Rugrats movie was the actual introduction of dill pickles.
Okay.
It grossed $140 million.
Okay.
That movie was popular. That movie
Wow.
made real money. That made Doug's first movie look like hot, stinky, wet garbage. Rugrats had his share of challenges. Klasky and Supo were not always seeing eye to eye. But they did come up with this unique animation style. And Klasky Supo was also the animation studio behind The Simpsons early on. The use of the squiggly lines and off-kilter angles gave Rugrats that distinctive look that set it apart, but also kind of made it a bit uneasy to watch.
That's true.
Yeah. The voice of the cast was E.G. Daly, voiced Chummy Pickles. Christine Cavanaugh was Chucky Finster, but eventually passed the role on to Nancy Cartwright, who is the voice of Bart Simpson. So another connection to The Simpsons. Cheryl Chase voiced the bossy and often antagonistic Angelica Pickles. And her memorable performance made Angelica one of the most iconic characters of the show with her little doll. Mm-hmm. Oh, what was the doll's name? Cynthia. Cynthia.
Gloria.
It was the Barbie stand-in with the hair that had been cut and pulled and whatever too much. Very distinctive. I remember that episode where Cynthia had gotten swept away in a flash flood or whatever, and went into the sewer and got all ratty and moldy and gross, and went on this little adventure as Angelica, and everybody are trying to find her, and then they find her and she's gross and they have to clean her off. I remember that one. One of the most interesting behind-the-scenes tidbits involves the departure and return of Paul Germain, one of the co-creators. Germain left the show after the first 3 seasons due to creative differences, but returned to the series' revival in 2021.
Wow.
This was the 3D animated Rugrats.
Oh, yeah, that was weird.
No one likes it. No one liked it. It got canceled, I'm pretty sure. I don't even think you can watch it on Paramount Plus anymore. If you can, no one is. Horrible idea.
You don't want to see him in 3D.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
It was uncanny valley horror. It was awful. It was awful. Awful. So let's forget that happened.
Never talk about that again.
Tommy Pickles was inspired by Arlene Klasky's own son. Pickles was not anything special. It was just funny, so they went with that. Mark Mothersbaugh, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, of Devo is the one who created the iconic theme song.
I could play that on the piano.
Yeah, it was a good theme song.
Most people can.
Yeah, it was a good theme song, though. It was nice. The other fun fact that I love is that I don't know if it was the creators or if it was just the animators, but somebody in the process of making the show really loved Doctor Who. I'm pretty sure it was the creators because they worked it in. What was his tool that he always had in his diaper to get him out of every situation?
Oh.
His little plastic screwdriver.
Mm-hmm.
There were often, whenever they were in the toy stores or whatever else, there would often be little Dalek toys in the background.
Okay.
There's little Doctor Who references throughout the show every now and then.
That's awesome.
Which I love. Love it so much.
And that's before they were doing
that was from that was inspired by original Who. Yeah,
right.
That wasn't even the new Who. Yeah.
New
Who. Which also New Who started in 2005. That was so long ago now.
That's not new.
I know. That's almost 20 years ago now. We're still considering it new. Oh.
I want to watch it again, but there came a point where I was done watching it. And so
But it's further than you think it is. There's so much that we loved that we watched all the way through until we got to the point where we were done.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think was halfway through Peter Capaldi.
Is that the old guy?
Yeah. Because it's just, they just went.
He was too creepy for
they
me.
They went too heavy.
So
They went too
creepy.
heavy into the horror aspect in that season.
So creepy.
And then it just never really bounced back. But it was really good. I'd say up until the episode where he has to punch a hole through a wall to get out over the course of centuries. His one punch, then his day resets. And he just has to keep doing that until he gets out. I love that episode. Mm-hmm. And after that, it was okay, whatever. It just didn't hit as well. And then you got, I'd say that, and then you end with the River Song episode, and then I'm fine being done with Doctor Who after that. But anyway, the third and final Nicktoon of the day, the Ren and Stimpy show. I hated it.
I never watched it. My parents must have hated it.
It was awful.
Or I guess you hated it, so you never made me watch it.
I never made you watch it because it was awful. It was the Beavis and Butthead of children's programming.
Mm-hmm.
It was disgusting. If you thought the art style of Rugrats was gross, Ren and Stimpy was worse. Ren and Stimpy pioneered the let's pause and do a really detailed up close image of like an eye booger or something disgusting, and then put like a little sound effect scream behind it, like, ah! Eye booger. Ah! Like to emphasize, this is gross and you're seeing it. I hated it. There were some funny bits. Like, I still watched it because I was a kid. I wanted to watch it. But I have no great memories. There were a few characters that I did like and a few scenes that I still find funny. Mm-hmm. But they are few and far between. I loved... Hold on, let's talk about it first. It is a dark humor show. It is absurd. Has that distinctive animation style. It developed a very big cult following. But that's why they call it a cult following, because you have to, like, be nuts to follows the misadventures of Ren Hoek. H-O with the... What are the two dots?
Oh.
You were from Germany. Come on.
I've known the word at one point, but I don't know.
Umlaut?
That sounds right. Oh.
Umlaut. O with umlaut and then E-K, Hoek. A psychotic chihuahua and Stimpson J. Cat. A good-natured but dim-witted cat called Stimpy. Ren and Stimpy. The show's success can be attributed to the groundbreaking animation, unique characters, irreverent humor. But unlike the other children's programming at the time, especially the other two Nicktoons, it was notable for pushing the boundaries of what was considered acceptable in children's television. Mm-hmm. Incorporating gross-out humor, surrealism, and satirical commentary. So yeah, it was pretty edgy for the time. Yeah. Let's put it that way. But it influenced a lot of very popular things, not the least of which being SpongeBob SquarePants. SpongeBob SquarePants has incorporated a lot of the gimmicks from Ren and Stimpy.
No wonder I hate SpongeBob.
Even South Park was inspired by Ren and Stimpy. Adventure Time has been inspired by Ren and Stimpy.
This is not making me want to watch the show.
Any of these at all. Yes. So some of the things that I did like were some of the more irreverent stuff. And yeah, it's probably gross out body humor stuff. First was a character called Powdered Toast Man. He was a superhero. That was 2 pieces of toast for a head. And he would be like this. He was like a breakfast mascot.
Okay.
That would fart cinnamon. But he would like pop down if the kid's breakfast wasn't cinnamon enough, he would pop down the first piece of toast off his head and scrape some cinnamon off. Pop it back up. It sounds gross. It wasn't really played as gross. It was just weird. Then there was the fictional board game Don't Whiz on the Electric Fence. Don't whiz on the electric fence. It's great. Fantastic. And then the other thing that I remember was that they actually had it was a audio story, like a Christmas audio book, almost audio musical, I guess, because it told a story. It wasn't like an episode where it was, musical and they just put the soundtrack. Like they did the whole story on this tape.
Okay.
On this cassette tape. And it was a weird, gross out Christmas story. And the only song I remember was about a guy who couldn't grow chest hair. And he was really sad about it. And what he wanted for Christmas was chest hair. And so they sang, "We wish you a hairy chest wig and a bucket of beards." Wish you a hairy chest wig and a bucket of beards. That's all I remember. But I remember that being my favorite song from that tape.
Oh my gosh.
Going over. So yes, there obviously was at least a year where I was really into Ren and Stimpy.
Right.
But then I quickly grew out of it, where I
Right.
did not grow out of Rugrats or Doug.
Right.
And looking back on it now, I'm just like, no, blah. I mean, there was a time I liked South Park and Family Guy too, and I cannot watch those shows. They make me want to vomit now. Horrible.
Like you more because
The production of Ren and Stimpy was, surprise, fraught with controversy and behind-the-scenes drama. John Crickfalusi, terrible last name. Get better last names, people. That's one thing we've learned on this show, is that your last names are terrible.
Why do you even try?
The show's creator was known for his perfectionism and uncompromising vision, which often led to conflicts with Nickelodeon's management. His insistence on creative control resulted in numerous production delays and cost overruns. The tension eventually led to his dismissal from the show in 1992, after which Bob Camp took over as the show's director. Billy West was the voice of Ren Hoek and Stimpy.
Wow.
But originally, John Crickfalusi was also the voice of Ren Hoek until he was fired that next year. And Billy West took over. So he became the voice of both the titular characters.
Wow.
Yeah. And his performance as both those characters are considered some of the most iconic in animation history, because you can't tell that it's the same guy. And that's what make him good. That what make him good.
Right.
The show's writing and production process was also unique. The writers and animators often worked collaboratively, with scripts and storyboards being developed simultaneously. Like, they put a lot of work into this gross show. But this approach allowed them to have a bit of creative freedom and spontaneity, which I guess has created some of the most memorable moments from the show. Ren was inspired by a photograph of a Chihuahua from a 1940s era dog show.
Okay.
Stimpy was modeled after a cat breed known as the Manx.
Minx?
No, Manx. The show's famous catchphrases, such as Ren's "You idiot" and Stimpy's "Happy, happy, joy, joy," became part of a popular culture. There was a whole song, "Happy, happy, joy, joy." Happy, happy, joy, joy. Happy, happy, joy, joy. Happy, happy, joy, joy. Happy, happy, joy, joy. Those are the only song words, lyrics, whatever. Over and over again. But they danced to it. They would dance back and forth. Happy, happy, joy, joy. And they'd turn around and they'd bumping booties for the next one and turn back around. Yeah, I remember that.
Sounds about right.
Right? The theme song of the show was composed by the then unknown Danny Elfman, who was one of the most iconic composers in entertainment, honestly. They used classical music. They used stock music. They had original compositions by composers like Raymond Scott and Scott Bradley, adding to the quirky and eclectic vibe. The show was it didn't want you to be comfortable. It was very eclectic to keep you on your toes and off guard at all times. It had a relatively short run. However, it spawned a range of merchandise, video games, comic books, toys, and then even an adult version of the show that came out on Adult Swim, I believe, many years later. I don't think it did well, but it was gross.
I'm sure.
If you thought the original was gross, this was even grosser. It lent itself to, I'm sorry, not the new show, but the original show didn't help its case to prove that it was for children, because after its original run, it was moved to MTV.
Oh, wow.
Where they played the reruns there.
Wow.
Unedited, normal reruns there. Like,
wow.
That's where it found its audience, alongside Beavis and Butthead and whatever else, whatever other garbage was playing at the time. But, like I said, critical and commercial success, powerhouse in animation. So these Nicktoons paved the way for future Nicktoons like Rocko's Modern Life, which is one of my favorites. Also very absurdist. Also had some pretty off-color humor, but it wasn't super gross. It was a little gross, but not super gross.
Why does it have to be gross at all?
That's a thing kids like, especially boys. And this was mostly aimed at boys.
I remember Rugrats like being a little gross sometimes.
What was gross in Rugrats?
I can't recall like a specific thing, but I know Phil and Lil liked
guess they
a
would-
lot of
Yeah, they'd eat
gross
bugs.
things and
Yeah, they'd eat bugs and stuff. That was
Yeah.
fun. They'd eat boogers. That was fun. They'd swap who was wearing the bow and see if anyone would notice, and that was fun.
not gross.
No, I do know what you mean. I remember, especially, it was usually like in the opening of the stories, they would give you like a bug's eye view or a bird's eye view or a fly's eye view of stuff. There's one episode where you're following a fly and you follow it like into the kitchen, and it's like a super up close picture of the dog eating this chunky brown dog food. And it was gross. And now that's on the internet that I just did that. Inspired shows like Hey Arnold, one of the greatest to ever happen. Oh, fight me. Hey Arnold was so good. Move it, football head. Oh, loved it. Loved it. We're going to dedicate a whole episode to Hey Arnold. Such a good show. And SpongeBob SquarePants. It's been going for almost 30 years.
Why? Why is it still going?
It was just this odd powerhouse. It hit all the right buttons from all the history of Nicktoons leading up to it. It's like, all right, we know they like this part and this part and this part of all these shows. Let's put them together. Bikini Bottom. Here we go. Bikini Bottom. They got away with calling it Bikini Bottom. I actually don't hate it all that much. It's just, I was too old before it hit, and so I never got into it. I'm sure if I was a kid when SpongeBob came out, I would have been heavily into it.
You would.
Yeah.
Your kids certainly like it.
Yeah, but they've barely seen it.
Yeah.
They've barely seen it. But when they get the opportunity, they do it just because it makes mom mad.
Mom hates it. Yeah.
But there were a lot more Nicktoons, which, were proved by the game at the beginning of the show. A lot more Nicktoons. There were more than that.
Right.
There was
Right.
Initially, when I envisioned this episode, we were going to let's talk about all the Nicktoons. And then I looked at how many Nicktoons there were. I'm like, nope, can't do that. We'll be here forever. Do you remember the Infinity War episode? Infinity Saga? It was 2 hours. So long. But that's about it. Those were the Nicktoons that started it all. Heavy in my childhood. Loved it. Mm-hmm. Loved it. And made you join the ranks later in life.
Yep.
Yeah.
You did.
I did.
You were like,
of the three, my favorite's Rugrats.
well, yeah.
Yeah.
I would divorce you if it wasn't. What compares to Rugrats?
I get that. Susie. We forgot about Susie. I liked Susie. The foil to Angelica. Mm-hmm. Same age. Came and just messed up all of Angelica's plans. That was fun. I never really watched any of the stuff with Kimmy.
Yeah.
And so I don't really know. That was beyond our time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Beyond our time.
Right.
I'm glad Chucky's dad found someone, though. Chucky's dad was a uber nerd who needed love. And they thought he would never find it, but he did.
Oh, gosh.
In another country. Think? Was she from Was she from Paris?
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't remember how the movie went.
Me neither.
Is it him meeting them in Paris, or are they getting married in Paris? Did they meet on the show? I feel like that's not how that went. Why would they meet on the show? That's silly.
I have
Were the movies canon?
no idea.
Or was it like the Power Ranger movie that didn't really play into the show at all? But then the second one did. What's going on? Subscribe to the Nerd History Podcast via our brand new YouTube channel. YouTube.com at Nerd History LTN. You can also subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc. Find us on lovethynerd.com/Nerd History Pod. And we also have our daily Today in Nerd History videos that come out every single day, along with an article with even more cool stuff about those things from that day. Over daily, every single daily. lovethynerd.com/nerd history. Just the simple nerd history will get you there, or it'll be on the front page. It's on the front page now every day. Just go to lovethynerd.com. It's right there on the front page. We will be back with an excellent new episode in 2 weeks.
I have to watch those.
But until then, I'm Radio Matt.
And I'm Deidra.
And remember, in the past, present, and future,
Jesus loves you, nerds.